Well, now that we had our dance session, let's get started. Let's get to work, frankly. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And before I get started onto the topic of fear, I want to actually take a moment and what a fitting topic for this day, 24 years ago, 9/11, when so many people showed courage in the face of absolute fear. And firefighters walked up the flights where others ran down. People steered planes into different directions to change the fate of potentially others and not harm more people than were already. And the courage of the people who lived through this, who helped others survive and perhaps lost their own lives. For the people in this country and around the world who stood with us at this moment. Thank you for being here tonight. So, before I get into the topic of fear, I'd like to share with you why this topic is so close to my heart. It took a little bit of deep digging, which I invite you tonight to do as well. I believe that fear is the most destructive force controlling the hearts and minds of people today at a time where their critical thinking has been undermined by the advances in technology. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. And it causes actually structures to fail, systems and strategies to fail as well. And because of that, I have made it my personal mission to help individuals who feel disempowered, anxious, and overwhelmed to tap into their inner resources and to help them to get from disempowered to become empowered and to become the persons, the people that they were supposed to be, meant to be. And it is my passion to help others, to take them from frenzy to flourishing, and to help them to find this courage and confidence and the competence so that they craft their own new stories. Tonight, I have structured around what fear is, why it is a problem, why you need to address it, and learn techniques that will help you. Not only techniques, but a lot of it is mindset, but I'll get to that in a moment. And I will share with you 3 data points as well as 3 incredibly powerful techniques that will help you to alleviate fear, to take actions immediately that you can do and calm your system down. And before I forget, I'd like to, of course, mention that I have some exciting announcements to make. I was in a 8-day course where I have done tremendous learning, which I, of course, am passing on to you. And I'm continuing this journey for the next almost 2 weeks, starting this Saturday. And of course, all of this is going to help those of you that will share this journey with me. So there are also some bonuses. So you're here for a reason. And you have made a conscious decision to take this time out tonight and spend it here. Sure, there are many other things that you could do. So I want to thank you and acknowledge this that you are doing. Now, fear is like when you are walking on your journey and you're feeling alone, lost. Some may even feel that they don't know where they are or where their journey, their mission is taking them to. And so they find themselves on this path, if they can see a path indeed. And the only thing that they have is their smartphone. And so they're walking, and all of a sudden, it's as if night falls upon them. All of a sudden, they can't see. And on top of nightfall, there is a heavy fog around them, and they find themselves wandering, lost. What makes matters worse, their resources, their battery is on low energy, and they have hardly any power left. And so they can't turn that flashlight on because that takes all the power away. And so they find themselves in this forest all of a sudden. And as it is getting darker and darker, and their fear is going up, behind every tree, they see shadows that turn into monsters. And every sound that they hear is raising their fear levels and their anxiety and inner panic. And perhaps they're fighting, but they're running out of energy. They may be running towards the danger, although of course they don't know where it is, or they're running away from it. Some will simply freeze and stand still or fall in death. In either event, all of them will face an exhaustion, a complete exhaustion, and they will lay down. Oh, I forgot to mention, it's winter, it's freezing cold, and they don't know when the sun will rise. And you know what happens when you cower in a position of frozen, you may freeze. And the hours tick away until finally the sun rises. And, well, you are one of those people that may find themselves at a time when you expend all your energies on the monsters that your fear is creating. And you're putting all that energy into building more fear, more threats. And you're exhausting your internal resources for the very thing that is going to take you off course, if, of course, you know where your course is. And by doing so, by putting your energy into the fear, what are we really doing? We're building up the fear. We're taking our energy from us, depleting our resources, and giving it to the things that we'd rather not have. I'd like you to also remember a time when perhaps you were at school and there were school bullies. Those people, those kids that give in to the bullies, they will end up being bullied more and more and more because they're strengthening the bully while they're weakening themselves. I remember it well because I was, of course, bullied. I don't know why I added the of course. We came from Iran to Germany, Munich, and I was the odd person out. I was the weirdo. And yes, they did bully me, but not for long, let me tell you that, because I stood in my power. I was very lucky though, because I had a guide, a coach, a mentor, a supporter, happened to be my mother. And she always told me, don't you give in to them. And I didn't. Didn't take very long that they chose another subject. You may remember the Godfather movies. And we saw what the mafiosos do. They pick on the one and they intimidate all by picking the one. If only the many knew that the power, their power, lies in one thing, is standing up, in having the flexibility to go with the wind, but to stand together. We don't say, united we stand and divided we fall for nothing. There is meaning and there is wisdom in that. If we as a society get together, we will fare through our fear points much better. But the reality is that most people, when they find themselves in fear, they have done two things. For one thing, they take themselves into fear because it feels more comfortable to be alone instead of being vulnerable and ashamed and embarrassed about their emotional state. But the other is that they've also conditioned themselves from past experiences. They happened and they remember that this is what it was. And therefore, they take that information and they condition themselves for every following event. And now those events have laid themselves on their reality now and overshadow everything in their future. And I always wonder, is this the way we're supposed to live? Today, we find that it is not only fear that pulls us away, but it is also, as I addressed earlier, our smartphones, our devices that keep us so captivated that we are choosing isolation, sometimes by being oblivious to what these technologies do to us. So we scroll endlessly in the privacy of our room. The more we scroll, the more we compare, the lonelier we become, the more we fear outside things. Very often we choose the loneliness because we are afraid. So now we heighten it. And again, what do? We make the monsters bigger and we're taking from our own resources. We are not meant to live in isolation, in solitude, and alone. In ancient times, in prehistoric times, when a member of the tribe was kicked out, it meant that it was almost a death sentence because they knew alone they could not stand up against the environmental threats. There are similarities here because we need our community just as much as they did then. But our devices have taken us to a level of further and further isolation. There was a time when very long ago, when people would come together at the kitchen table. They would share the news. They would share with each other the news of the day, and they would read to another. Then came the radio and the television, where we were told a vision of others who came and told about it. We were given the stories. And then, of course, it led to the computer, the personal computer, the World Wide Web, and the smartphone with social media. Why is this important? Because it affected the way we think. There was a time people could add and subtract and multiply and divide. Today, our brains have become lazy. Our phones do it. We used to remember telephone numbers. It's hard to do so. We don't even need to remember facts anymore. We can Google them quickly. And now it has gone with AI so far that we don't even need, of course, we don't need to do our research, but they do it even faster. But we have even reached a level where we don't do the critical thinking, reviewing this information and finding our position in it. So that is why this is such a problem, because when we stop using our brains, we lose the muscle. It is like a muscle. Furthermore, social media has shortened our attention span. So now it's a lazy brain, and we also have no attention and no retention. That is an unfortunate mix. And it causes us, because we have depleted our cognitive resources to deal with the threats that are around us. We're giving our power to them rather than empowering us. So for that, I will now go and share with you my screen. Let me first make sure that this is open. No, we can close this. Hold on. Let me go to this, and I will share the screen to my, here we go. There we go. Yes, I wanted to have this on. If you still have time to go and get paper and pen, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, that's perfectly all right. So let's go to the definition of fear, what fear is. It's an automated response, an emotional response that will help you. It is designed to help you to survive, be that real threats, that's the survival, of course, but as the brain cannot differentiate between real or imagined, it also helps you to survive a perceived threat through the fight, flight response, but there's also the fear and fawn response. Now, what happens is in a moment of fear, you are not thinking through your cognitive, your prefrontal cortex, but there is a reaction, not a response, a reaction to either run towards it and fight or run from it, away from it, as in escaping the threat, fleeing. Then there's, of course, the freeze and the fawn, playing dead. Now, this requires to get all your energy to put it into the muscles, your breathing, your blood, all of that rushes so that you can protect yourself. Now, fear as an emotion, it is involuntary, rapid, and bypasses, as I said, the cognitive, the conscious control. It's a survival mechanism. As it says, it is subjective, of feeling afraid, and the causes of fear, there are only two innate fears. One is the fear of falling, and one is the fear of loud noises. Everything else is something that we have learned. It's learned behavior. There's certainly, as it says, innate threats. Yes, we fear heights. We may fear heights and snakes and death. That is innate, an innate threat. Learned and conditioned are all the others, which is why I said when we ruminate in the past, something happened to us. We experienced fear, and perhaps we also experienced failure. We connect the two, and we took that as a lesson with us into everything that we are doing. And we take that as our model of the world and allow everything to scare us. Therein does not lie power, but a disempowered state. The good news is that you can change that. What fear does is everything has a positive and negative aspect. There is, of course, the positive aspect of fear, which is that it helps you to protect yourself and get you through a dangerous moment, a threat, and get you to survival. The negative aspect of fear is if you're dwelling on fear, if your fear becomes your 24/7 state of mind, when you are in chronic stress and chronic anxiety, which is the looking forward towards the future with fear, that's anxiety. Anxiety is future-based. When you do that, you're depleting your resources. And what happens with that is that why it is a problem is because you're causing harm to your physical body. You are affecting your digestive system, your heart, your cardiovascular system, your respiratory system. It affects your, let me think, what else? Of course, your mental states, and it compromises your immune system because you are in a constant state of inflammation, and it makes you vulnerable and opens and depletes your immune system, so you fall prey to diseases. Apart from the fact that, of course, it paralyzes your decision-making and it depletes your life of all your joy. So the real question tonight that I want to pose here is, what is your problem? Is it fear? Fear of what? What are you fearful of and what are you afraid of? There are so many forms of fear: the fear of failure, the fear of success, fear of having an opinion, fear of being different, perhaps even the fear of being you. Sometimes we'd rather hide behind a facade that we believe others will accept far faster, quicker than they would accept us. But that is us doing the thinking for them, which we of course can't do. And what it really does, it limits you. It makes you pleasing others or thinking that you'd like to please others just so to fit in. I invite you to ask yourself these questions. What are you really fearful of? Why is fear your problem? Because it usually keeps us from doing something. Remember, it was once a state that protected us, perhaps protected us from falling off a cliff. That is a good fear. But then there is the fear that we need to conquer. I am working with a young boy, and his desire to be so much better than he is prevents him from actually being better. And by not getting there, he creates a fearful mindset about failing, and which leads him to the exact opposite of what he wants. Now he has set himself up to fail. There are ways, of course, for us to flip this around and to reframe what we are so afraid of. The question is that I'd like to ask you, and you ask yourself, is what would you rather have? And we're going after the feeling. If you have a very good idea what you'd rather have, then that is perfect. But what is it that you're feeling about it? And again, be about the feeling, and make sure you state it in the positive. Don't state it, I don't want to have, no fear of driving, whatever. I can't come up with an example. I'd rather be free of fear. For example, our unconscious mind cannot accept a negative. So if you say, I don't want to be fearful, all it hears fearful or anxious, and it gives you the fearful and the anxious. So please remember that, state it in the positive. And here's the question about values. What is important about what you want? This is about your purpose, the satisfaction in your life, fulfillment, things that bring meaning to you. What is the thing that you want so much giving to you? Think about that. How is it that you don't have what you want yet? What is really keeping you from getting there? How will you get there? What must you do to make it happen? And frankly, will you know when you have it? Because the story that I told you in the beginning, the story, truly it was a made-up story of being in the lost, being in the forest. Most people, as we enter and walk along the journey of our lives, we're not very clear about what we want. I notice that all the time when I work with clients, that when I ask them, what do you want? And they don't have clarity about that. But without clarity and focus, do we know where we're going to? And fear truly is an absolute liar. The problem with fear in our modern age is that it gets it wrong. The perceived threat to our ego or psychological safety activates the same survival mechanism as if it were real. It is false evidence appearing real. And I'm sure that perhaps you can relate to this. Maybe you have done this. I've been working with someone who has great talent, is a great artist, created this great collection of art. And very excited too, started the work very excited about exhibiting it. And then came the moment of the exhibition, and the spinning in her mind started, and she was wondering what other people may think of her work. And she started saying, well, I'm really not as good as, and they may think this is not good enough. And so from the prices that she had set, she started slashing them even before the event started. So what she was really doing, she was devaluating her self-worth through the work that she presented to the world before anyone could even reject her. She rejected herself first. And it is this very example of what we do about our state that affects and has other people react to us the way they do. So fear is truly a liar. How many people have you seen that start a course, they finish a course, and the minute they've completed it, they believe that everyone knows this, and so right now it is really absolutely not worthy of anything. And the reason for that is because they fear of going forward and actually doing something with it, which means they may hit a wall, and that wall we'd like to avoid. So let me give you 3 data points about fear. Fear's mental impact: 72% of people who have daily stress and anxiety say it interferes with their lives at least moderately, while 40% experience persistent stress or excessive anxiety in their daily lives. Those are huge numbers. Additionally, unresolved depression accounts for 35% reduction in productivity and contributes to a loss of $210 billion a year in the US economy in the form of productivity loss, medical costs, and absenteeism. That's a lot. Physical impact, which I addressed already earlier. Our bodies react to fear in ways that can put extra strain on our hearts, on our blood pressure, and decreased heart variability. It weakens our immune system, can cause cardiovascular damage, gastrointestinal problems such as ulcers and irritable bowel syndrome, and decreased fertility. It can accelerate aging. And if it doesn't accelerate aging, it certainly makes you feel and look so old, because it's like this weight on top of you and like a boulder on your chest. Its emotional impact: estimated 12 billion billion working days are lost every year to depression and anxiety at a cost of $1 trillion per year in lost productivity. 68% of millennials and 81% of Gen Z left their jobs for mental health related reasons in the last year. They have had a hard time. I know that for sure, and they need help to get through this. These statistics certainly underscore why transforming our relationship with fear isn't just about feeling better, but it's about reclaiming our health, our performance, and our life to create the life we truly want and deserve. So let me share some techniques with you, 3 techniques as a matter of fact. So how can you release tension and reset intention? It starts with the breath. The breath is hugely important. So inhale through the nose. It's a shorter inhale than the exhale. Then through the nose, hold at the top for just a moment, and then exhale through the mouth. And if it is possible, exhale making an sound, and feel the vibrational resonance in your upper chest right here. That's really, really very helpful. Do this 1 to 3 or as many times as necessary until you regulate your sympathetic nervous system. Then close your eyes. Closing the eyes is really important because you interrupt the spinning pattern of your brain. There is a pattern interrupt and a cut. And then say to yourself, release, release, release until you feel calm. This can take between 3 to 5 minutes. Perhaps if you train yourself to do it more often, it can go quicker than that until you feel the tension has left. Then set a positive intention that will help you to get through whatever caused this fear. And now the key to setting this intention is see it in the form of an image and make this image really bright and popping and exciting and colorful, rich. Hear the wonderful sounds, the uplifting sounds, and feel it and allow those feelings to really kick it up, kick it up, kick it up until you're at the height. When you're at the height, open your eyes. Don't let it come down again. When you're at the height of this good feeling, open your eyes and you're ready to roll. Next one is the cognitive reset. So ask yourself if this threat is real and immediate, or are you creating a story? Very often we are embellishing, we're adding more to it. You may wonder what it is that you should ask yourself, what can I actually control in this situation right now? What would I focus on if I knew I couldn't fail? Zooming out helps when you imagine you're viewing your current worry from 10 years in the future. And I tell you why that is helpful, because you're creating a timeline forward, and anxiety is about future. It's future oriented. So now you're dissociating yourself and you're going into the future. So you're already one step away to have distanced yourself from the present current situation into the future, and you're looking back from there towards the present, the now, and you will ask yourself, does it matter? Most likely, most of the things we worry about, it won't matter one bit. This helps you to break that urgency and also the perspective. You're dissociated, you're stepping out of it and looking at it from far away in the distance. Third one is when you notice fear thoughts, immediately ask, what do I want instead? Remember, I asked you that earlier. Shift from what if it goes wrong to what if it goes right? That's part of having a positive attitude. It could go right as well, right? There's a 50-50. Energy flows where attention goes. Choose your focus deliberately. Empowerment mindset shifts. So draw 2 circles, the one where you can control what you can control, your inner world, and what you can't control, external. Place your current worries in the appropriate circles and focus on, of course, the only one to focus on is on your inner world, the one you can't control. When fear arises, ask, what would the person I want to become do right now? The person that you may already be. Connect to your core values rather than to your current emotions. Act from a point of identity, not circumstance. And that is really valuable advice. These are all proven strategies that work and that I use in my work with my clients. These are but a few that I use. And as I've told you, I have gone through a few additional certifications, and I'm planning to go over this coming year to enormous amount additional certifications that will raise my abilities to work with my clients even better than I'm doing already. And that truly excites me, because I have realized in the years that I've been working with clients that most people, there is this belief that if they worry and they stress, that they will have an edge because they're in this fear state. They will come up with plan A, plan B, plan C. And if they are happy, on the other hand, then they will not be protected because they believe that their senses have been dulled down and lulled by happiness. And so they believe that they must be in this unhappy, fearful state to be always protected. And nothing could be farther from the truth than that, because what they're really doing, which I have addressed, is that they're depleting their internal resources. And they're really attracting to them more of the things that they focus on. Where attention goes, where focus goes, attention flows, where energy flows to. So it brings them to their empowering the fear state. And the one thing that most people don't know is that that is also contributing to their ill health, as well as it is a huge time killer. They lose valuable time that they can never get back by focusing on the wrong thing. And most people, it's not a lack of good intentions, it's truly a lack of knowledge of what this fear state does to them. They believe that they are victims rather than really contributing participants to their emotional states. And my point is, I want to help them to understand that they have the power and they have the control to change what is. So what's the solution to overcoming your fear, any fear? Well, I have learned that within the problem, there's already the solution. It is part of the problem, but most people, because they don't know how, and we are not taught this, don't know how to get there. So I've also learned that at some point in our life story, we have made a limiting decision. That's right, it's not a limiting belief. A belief is formed after you make a decision, and a decision is thought-based. You thought about something that may have caused you fear, and you decided on a limiting decision. And it is this limiting decision that, as you're holding on to that, makes you the person that you are today, unless you find a way to turn that and to reframe, to see that limiting decision in a different light. Most people choose avoidance. They'd rather not face what is troubling them. And this came to mind when I thought about this issue. And I thought, what if Moses had chosen avoidance? He would have brought his people to the Red Sea, and he would have seen it as the Red Sea and would have said, you know, how about we walk around it? I don't know how long that would have taken him, but as it was, it took him 40 years to bring them to the promised land. Can you imagine the time he would have added to it? But like me, and I don't compare myself to Moses, but he too had an intuition, an inspiration, a belief and a trust. And he took the first step into the unknown, into the uncertainty. And that is, as the poet Rumi says, when the student is ready, the path opens, and you must walk the path alone. But that doesn't mean that you don't have guidance and inspiration and someone who walks by your side, which is, for Moses, of course, it was it was the unseen power of God. It helped him, but he did have to walk through that and be the guide of his people. The opposite of that is not walking, of saying, oh, this is too big for me. I am too small for this. And giving in to avoidance, giving into fear. What happens is, as you give in, you find a temporary, I bit that bullet. The unfortunate side is that as you are here, you're feeling relief. What you're doing is you're giving your power from here, and you're putting all of that power into the threat. And you're making this bigger and bigger and growing your long-term anxiety. You're feeding the monsters. You're making them bigger while you're shrinking here into nothingness. And so every time you come along this moment of where you feel this panic, this fear, the anxiety, you're making yourself shrink smaller and this bigger. What if you could do it differently? This is what we are doing now. This is giving this the power. And here we are diminished because we're overestimating danger and underestimating our internal resources. Not only are we doing that, we're giving more and more and more away. What if you would take all of this back and put it right over here and giving it to yourself? That would straighten the playing field. That would make it even. That would give you the power. And this is a study that people who experience anxiety are the people that take the longest. It is logical. They hold off between 3 to 30 years to find a solution for their problems. It is fear-based, so they're clearly afraid to make a decision. Most people cite that they don't know how to get the help. They find themselves perhaps at the edge, or they can't even get to the edge because they are so fearful. And this poem came to mind, the famous poem by Guillaume Apollinaire, "Come to the edge," he said. "We can't, we're afraid," they responded. "Come to the edge." "We can't, we will fall," they responded. "Come to the edge," he said. And so they came and he pushed them and they flew. Well, pushing is a good thing. And perhaps as you're flying, you see that that is not even as dangerous. But here is the other side of this coin, the one where the fear is so overwhelming that you can't see yourself doing it. And in your avoidance, you're choosing to climb down that mountain, to walk across the valley of despair and go back up the other side of the mountain. And don't be too surprised to learn that this journey of avoidance isn't void of threats at all. There will be as many threatful situations. And frankly, what you've done on top of that is that now you are the weaker one, the one that doesn't even trust yourself anymore. Imagine the easy way being the hardest way of them all. How often do you find when you take shortcuts and doing the avoidance thing that becomes the toughest journey of them all? What if you could change your perception and help you? So how would you get there? The fact that you got on this workshop and that you've made it to this point, that you're still here with me, tells me that you're ready to find what will get you to where you want to be, will help you, that you want to identify where you are, who you are and who you want to become. And I have found that it is helps people to relax when they know the exact steps of how to get there. It's an easy decision, and there are a few options, and I will, as I promised you, let you a little bit more of what I've got for you. So the first gift that I have for you is my From Chaos to Calm recording. And I tell you in a moment how you will get it. The reason I pulled these incredibly powerful techniques was because of a client telling me that she couldn't take it anymore. And so I created this recording that I will give to you. And it helps you to calm your body systematically and progressively down. And it will also help you to find a meditative state that you can practice daily. And so you can create a different neural pathways, new ones that will help you to control your emotional state. The other is I wrote an ebook, Wellness Without Worry, that I will also give to you, which there are explanations of anxiety and fear, and also, of course, techniques of how you can take your power and your peace back. And I'm giving these to you for free because, as I said, I believe that fear is one of the most disastrous and dreadful things that can happen to us because it limits our potential. And the world will be the poorer for it. And what comes to mind is, as I read this story just before we got on, of Todd F. Beamer, who was on the flight that left Newark on its way to San Francisco, flight number 93. And he faced his fear with courage. That was not a man who was held back by limiting beliefs, limiting decisions. He stepped it up, and so can you. Are you ready to hear more? I'm sure you are. I have some new choices and options. The Clarity Collective, I have changed the program. So let me tell you about the program. It is still a collaborative. We're starting on Monday the 6th at 6:30 for 2 hours. It's on Zoom, weekly 2-hour meetings. I will teach certain topics, I'll tell you in one moment, techniques. You will practice them in breakout rooms. And there's Q&A and mindful trances. There's a community chat group being set up. There will be mastermind groups, which are powerful, mentorship and support groups, and all of that for $97 monthly. The good news is, if you don't love it, you can drop out anytime. This is how you get the information. Let me go and put this in the chat. Let me hit this. Here is the information, but let me just give it to you here as well. Contact me, register right now on the marina.shakur@gmail.com. When you say yes to joining this group, do it tonight, and you will get a free 60-minute single standing success session with me. I will send you some questions before the meeting so that I focus entirely on you and help you in this one 60-minute session. This is a success session. You will get the book, you will get the recording, you will get into the first cohort, and you get 20 to 30 minutes with me. And there's no credit card needed yet. This is the program. We're going to start with focus. Where focus goes, attention flows. You're going to clarity. You've got to be clear about what you want. You've got to be clear where you are, who you are, what you want. Energy, that's about your physical energy. Courage, confidence, commitment, competence, and capabilities. Then I will take you to gratitude. We're going to work on anger issues, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and the program will go from there. This should take us easily to the end of the year, if not beyond. That's the program for this. So the question is, what can you get for $97? Frankly, not much these days anymore when you go shopping. I don't think it's a lot for me. I live alone now, so I get, for me, it lasts longer. And I don't eat much, so lucky me, but it doesn't go very far. Starbucks coffees, I don't know, 2 weeks maybe. I Googled it, 12 packs of cigarettes, two tanks of gas. But the real idea, of course, behind this is it's not about giving you the food, the fish, but rather helping you to be the fisher. I've added new programs and I'm really excited about these. I'm going to start on Wednesday, October 8th, a peak performance group program. So once you start with this one, we start on Wednesday the 8th. It will then close because this is a linear program where I take you step by step by step through the different modalities. The clarity, you can come in and go out anytime you want. That's a circular program. This is linear. I've also developed a high performance for high achievers personal private coaching program. So this is one-on-one. I have developed my timeline therapy, which is, I am now a certified trainer. This is an incredible journey that will help you to release your anger, your sadness, your fear in this order, your hurt and your guilt. Then we will work on your internal struggles, which will help you to get to your personal breakthrough. This is a powerful modality. And then, of course, I am continuing to have my personal growth coaching, where I'm using positive psychology, the timeline therapy wherever it seems appropriate, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy, where and when appropriate. Here's my invitation to you. You can say yes to the collective and send me an email, or you can hop on the cover call with me. And that you do that by going to the marina.coach/apply. Now, as I said, my time is limited in the coming 2 weeks. So I would highly recommend that you do this tonight as quickly as possible, because I have very few time slots open. Apart from my time slots, what I have learned is that the longer you wait, the more you give power to the fear, to the worries, to the anxieties, to the past, and you will fall into that anxiety awareness gap and go into the freeze mode and don't do anything at all. And that's where no growth lies and no change occurs. Actually, that's not true, because change happens whether we want it or not, but that change is the deteriorating change, the downward and the downward, and you get farther and farther away from what you want to achieve and lose sight of all of this, and you will fall wayside. So this is 40 minutes where I focus on you. I have a very specific strategy. I ask you a few questions, and I will give you some advice, some strategies that will help you immediately. And if you choose to talk to me about what working together looks like, we can do that. If you don't want to, that's fine. This is not a sales call in disguise. I am here to help you. But of course, if you want to know more, that's what we do. And of course, you get the two, the ego and the book, the chaos to calm and the book. And I will now stop the share, and I am happy to take questions from you now. I've left